Now, hello, and I will invite. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the chat. Hello, Shelly. Hello, Jazz. Hi, how are you?
Hi there. I'm good, thank you, George. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Just a question: is do I pronounce your name Jazz?
Yeah, it's fine. Jazz is fine.
Jazz. Okay, okay. Just so I'm not calling you by the
It's
wrong.
actually short for Jaspreet, but everybody calls me Jazz.
Okay. Do you prefer Jaspreet?
No, it's okay. Everybody calls me Jazz.
Jazz. Okay, okay. No, just
Yeah.
wondering. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I just finished work actually. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it was nice. I love Mondays. It's always good to. I feel like Mondays are always good. You get up to speed with what you're doing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a good day. I'm excited for our conversation as well. To be
Yeah,
fair.
so am I.
Okay, well let's get straight into it then. Um, so obviously, first of all, and welcome to everybody joining as well. Please feel free to ask questions. And yeah, let's and join in on our conversation. So I have Jazz here with us today, and we're going to be talking about dealing with grief and anxiety with rapid transformational therapy. So this is the therapy that you use to help your clients deal with anxiety, loss, grief, depression in their lives. Um,
That's
can,
right.
can you talk a bit more about that, please?
So, Rapid Transformational Therapy, or RTT for short, is a very unique cutting edge therapy. Basically, it takes on board the most positive aspects of things like NLP, so neuro linguistic programming,
Right.
CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, psychotherapy, and hypnotherapy. And it has its own techniques and methods. And it's been developed by the very well known Marissa Peer, who is a well known celebrity hypnotherapist and therapist. And essentially, RTP is used to get to the root cause of whatever pain points you're coming with very rapidly
Okay.
and quickly so that you can get freedom from that pain permanently.
Okay. And I guess we're going to speak a little bit more about how to cut the grief, whatever it is, early on, so that it doesn't become something more. And
Yeah.
I guess with RTT, it really helps treat that when it does, when you're grieving and you've been grieving for a long amount of time, and it builds
Hmm.
up. I guess that really helps you identify, because I can only imagine that over a certain amount of time,
Yeah.
you forget what you're actually grieving about, because there's so many more things that get caught up into your grief, and then it can become a problem.
So, yeah. The thing is, for grief, especially, George, it's really different.
Yeah.
If you're coming to me for anxiety, which is not grief related, but you've got anxiety, right, over certain things,
Okay.
we will help you get to the root cause. We will give you ways to combat it. We will give you ways so that you have absolutely phenomenal skills so that you can actually see it coming and stop it. Grief is something a bit different though, because grief is the loss of someone you have loved
Yeah.
and you don't get over it, and there is no real shortcut to it. So I just want to clarify that you can't, you can heal over how you handle your grief, but you will always have that loss of your loved one. And you will have days when you're up and down.
Okay.
What happens in grief is when you don't get a chance to actually express what you're feeling or get someone to validate how you're feeling, and you keep suppressing your emotions, then it manifests in other things that are like anxiety, like depression, insomnia. So grief doesn't just show up as grief. Grief is the actual process that we have to go through.
Okay.
So RTT is where I use RTT is I use it to allow you to get that stuff that's inside that you haven't actually dealt with after the loss, stuff that you've not expressed, emotions that are just locked inside. If you've not had a good cry, or
Yeah.
you've not been able to speak the words you wanted to speak to your loved one, things that are emerging. RTT allows you to go to the root of those type of things, as well as the relationship with the one you've lost. So when you lose a loved one, you will lose not just the relationship, but other things that you had with them. And issues that come up are sort of related, but it's like, I always say with anything, it's like peeling an onion.
Okay. How
So
so?
you're right. So because when you show up, say you've lost it, and it also depends with grief when you've lost someone. So if you've just had a loss, the type of pain and emotion you're going to have is going to be very raw.
Yeah.
And I believe you can't avoid it. You can't rush through it. You have to go at whatever pace is
Yeah.
good for you. So where RTT can come in is to help you go through it so that you can push through that pain in your own way at your own pace. But where the stuff that you're going to hold on to, which then festers later on, you can deal with those right away.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
hope that helps. I just wanted to clarify that because I lost my dad many, many years
Y-
ago and I still grieve for him. It's just the way I grieve for him has changed
Yeah.
over time.
And
Yeah,
I guess as well, being able to speak about it more openly is very helpful. What?
absolutely. But yeah, I guess I guess everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
We're all different. We all have different relationships with our loved ones.
Yeah.
So if you're able to speak out or you want to, if that's one way that helps you, definitely it helps to share
Yeah.
anything that you're feeling about. It helps to share, so it kind of validates your pain, even if you don't get something to help you right away. The fact that you've offloaded, that helps as well. So definitely, if you're able to speak about it,
Yeah.
it's good.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the, in a nutshell, RTT is basically a very powerful way of getting to the root cause. And we do this by accessing, I guess, what we now say the subconscious mind. Um, the subconscious mind is like that underneath our conscious mind. So we have like the surface operating mind
Yeah.
that we have. Like if I was to use the analogy of our phones,
Yeah.
right? So we're using all these apps, everything that's operating on our phone, but your subconscious is the programming. So what's actually happening is in our life as we're progressing, we're not upgrading the underlying programming, but we keep on getting the new apps. So
Right.
what happens? There's something goes wrong. And when you lose someone in grief, those issues, they come to the surface. And I help you access those issues. It's like you have a vault where you have stored away everything that's ever happened to you. And using RTT, we are able to access that vault and you lead yourself into the solution that you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds very, I mean, obviously very sensitive. And I would imagine you deal with a lot of people that are, that are going through a lot. So you would definitely have to be very empathic. Just quickly here before I move on to the next question, I watched one of your videos with Aman, and I was just listening to that, and I was really heartfelt by the conversation you guys had about the situation she went through with her ex partner,
Yeah.
and I just thought it was great for you to have that conversation, but also the way you listened to her as well, and the way she spoke out. She felt very comfortable. I just wanted to acknowledge you guys for that conversation. It was very powerful, and I really
Thank you.
enjoyed that. So I just wanted to acknowledge
Thanks.
you for that. Um, I have the second question here for you, Jazz. What advice can you give to people who are scared or unsure that therapy is right or not right for them? Because I know I have friends that have been to therapy, and some of them like it, some of them don't. But I have a lot of friends who may need therapy, or I feel like they would benefit from it, but they don't feel like it's right for them. There's like a taboo around it. So, what advice can you give to those kind of people?
So there's a taboo, I think, even in my particular community, there's a huge taboo, even not even just therapy, but even speaking up about
Yeah.
the issue.
Hmm.
Forget even getting to the help, you're even scared to speak up. And I guess we should always point out that if I have a pain physically in my body, right? If I have something show up or if I've got a headache, I'm going to go get myself some medicine, or I'm going to go to see the doctor.
Yeah.
So your mental health and mental issues are very much like that, where you need to address your emotional and mental pain.
Yeah.
And so therapy is just like that. You are accessing help for that mental and emotional pain. So if you're going to go get seen by a doctor for your physical pain, your therapy is for your mental and emotional pain and hurt. So I always compare that. The only difference is that there's this, we all have a fear of being judged.
Yeah.
Being judged, it's very hard
Yeah.
for people to be vulnerable
Yeah.
and speak up. It's become more difficult, especially now everyone's on social media. You get to see everyone's best lives,
Yeah.
everyone's, you know,
No,
there's
no
this
one has.
whole persona.
Yeah, no one's vulnerable. No one has any. No one makes any mistakes nowadays. You don't see
Yeah,
any of that.
you don't see. And the truth is, we all have those moments. We
Yeah.
all go through bad days. We all have stuff that's happening in our families. We all have stuff that's happening to us in school, in university, in our homes that do affect us. And it doesn't mean you have to come on social media and speak out about it.
Yeah.
It's being able to speak to someone, even if it's not initially the therapy stage, but even speaking to someone you trust. And what happens is there's two things. One is having that, let me speak up and ask
Yeah.
for help. There's that fear of being judged. On the other hand, people don't know how to hear.
Just
So,
listen.
you know, to listen, to
Yeah.
listen. People don't know how to listen and to just be present. And sometimes
Yeah.
we feel like if someone comes to me with an issue, I need to give them a quick fix.
Exactly. I feel like
And we sort of turn it away and say, nah, forget about it or don't worry about it. And so that can put people off because they'll
yeah.
think, oh, so and so will not get me, right? So this is where therapy comes in because the person you go to therapy is trained for this.
Yeah.
We are trained for this. And someone who is in that field, they will be in that field because they like to do. They have that empathic side to them. It's something that they want to do.
Yeah.
So that's what, you want to look at that. It's a safe space. So you don't have to tell everyone you're going for therapy. Just as you go to see a doctor, you don't need to tell anyone. It's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
So my advice to anyone who needs help is don't be afraid. The first step is even just starting it and then let it go. And then you choose. If the therapist and you don't are not a good fit, change.
Yeah.
You're not bound to anyone.
Absolutely. I feel like we're very scared. Like once we commit to something, it almost feels like it has to be till the end because we don't want to be seen as quitters or anything like that. But it's okay if it doesn't work out initially.
Yeah,
It's, like anything, if you take a medicine for your physical pain and it doesn't work, you're not going to keep taking that medicine hoping that it's going to work out. You're going to, get the right medicine hopefully and fix your problem. So
right.
it's
And
very
there's
similar.
no failure because you can only try. You're not going to fail.
Yeah.
What are you going to fail at? Right? If you do have that fear, ask yourself, what are you scared of?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? What's going to happen?
Yeah. And I
Go get the help.
and I do think it's so important to listen. A lot of the times I feel like people don't even want advice when they come to you for their problems. They just want to be heard. And
That's right.
yeah. And
Yeah. That's a big part of what I do with the grief.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
question here from James. Do you believe that spirituality can be a good way to maintain good mental and emotional health? And then I think he says, for example, specific types of meditation or prayers.
So it's an open question. Whatever works for you works for you. Uh, I'm talking in terms of not just spirituality. For me, I'm also religious. So spirituality aside, I'm also a religious
Yeah.
person. So in my life, my faith really got me through a lot. On the other hand, in terms of spirituality, yes, I believe I go to all, whatever works with you. Try, there's so many modalities,
Yeah.
different meditations. And meditation doesn't have to be, you know, it's not for everyone as well.
Yeah.
So if you're the type of person who has tried it and it's not for you, that's okay.
Yeah.
There's breath work, there's mindfulness, there's yoga,
Yeah.
there is journaling, there's listening to music, even just getting up and just jumping around to release any kind of emotion or stuck anxiety. Movement
Yeah.
is a form of getting somewhere. So yes, I think with spirituality, it's understanding at the whole that we are open and we are all connected, and we have all different kinds of means to kind of do these type of things. So I like to focus on I have a few guided meditations, RTT ones, obviously, because I'm RTT, but I also listen to all kinds of meditations at night. I try different things. I listen to different podcasts. Anything that uplifts you and empowers you,
Yeah.
go for that.
Yeah. I see.
And anything you listen to and you find I'm not actually connecting, or this person is not really clicking with me, switch off.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. I hear
Yeah,
you saying a lot, like experiment until you find something that works with you. And I think
yeah.
I think that's great advice, sound advice.
And the other thing, George, it'll shift, it'll change,
Mm-hmm.
right? You'll go through phases in your life, like when we grow up, right? When we're younger, we go to uni, we go out. As, for example, with me, like now, my idea of having a really good evening is with a bunch of good friends, just having a nice dinner or coffee, not necessarily going out clubbing. That's not me. I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
So the same thing I would say is with your journey, right? Try what works and always experiment. There's always new stuff out there. Be open-minded. The thing you want to remember is that you want to look after your well-being. You want to put yourself first, because when you're functioning well inside and outside, then you can do whatever you want in
Yeah.
life.
And just a question, more of a personal question for me, like, when you're going through these changes about what works for you and what doesn't work for you, how do you, a lot of your support in life is through friends and obviously religion and your spirituality, as you pointed out. But how do you handle that? Because as you change, maybe your friends don't change at the same pace as you do. So I've always struggled with that. And because I love my friends and I love, but I just don't know how to
Yeah.
handle that.
So there's a balance anyways. This happens with a lot of my clients. If they come to me and they're working on themselves or their relationship, what actually starts to happen when they start to make the shifts inside them, there's a part of them that maybe moves another direction,
Yeah,
and their friends and their people are still where they are. So there's sometimes a clash, and they have that little struggle of what do I do now?
yeah,
Anything that when you growth is usually, they say, a little bit it's not painful, it's different.
yeah,
It's an unfamiliar. So I guess what it is you can't force anyone to move up with you. You don't have to leave your friends, but you can adjust. You can kind of, if be yourself. So if you no longer want to do the things they're doing, just tell them, I'm going to, I don't want to hang out, or I don't want to hang out for this long. And start to balance up the stuff you do enjoy. And you will find that when you shift, the like-minded people will either shift with you or you'll meet new people.
yeah.
So you'll start making new connections. So I always use the example of a train with my clients.
No,
It's like our life is a train, and we're on the train and we are traveling, and we have people coming on and getting off all these stops. And as we move forward, some people will stay and carry on with us to the next stop, and some people will get off.
no,
It's all about just being open to, like, letting in who's going to be along your vibe and letting go of who's not.
yeah, no.
Doesn't mean you don't love them.
Yeah, I think it takes it. It's almost like being a little bit selfish so you can be unselfish as well. Because when you take
Yeah,
care of yourself, you'll be better off to help, the people around you as well, both
yeah,
mentally, physically, whatever the case may be.
yeah.
And
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad when you're being authentically you, because we're so programmed to not put ourselves first.
yeah,
We want to be there for everybody else. We want to please everyone because we validate ourselves externally.
yeah,
And when you are so happy in yourself, yes, it's painful and you'll miss your friends. You'll
yeah,
miss the contact. But eventually you'll find other people who are in your circle because your interests will change.
yeah,
You'll start hanging out in different places. And that's what life is. We just need to move on from your phase to phase and set the intentions of what is it the next phase in my life? What do I want to intend? What am I looking for now?
Yeah, no,
Life can be a lot of fun if we move through these with that kind of view rather than feeling guilty about letting go.
yeah, having the
Yeah,
positive energy to move forward instead of feeling like
yeah,
you're making the wrong move in that direction.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, thank you.
Yeah.
That's actually very helpful. I really appreciate that answer. Before I ask you the next question here, uh, James has asked the question: How has Rapid Transformational Therapy (RTT) helped them to empower you? Do you have any personal stories that you can share?
So the reason why I'm doing RTT
Yeah,
is because it helped me so much. So I guess I lost my dad in 2008, and the same year that I lost my dad, I separated from the ex, and then shortly after, my grandmother passed away. So in a year, I had a lot of losses happen in
yeah,
my life. And I also became a single parent, a single mother of my girls were only 2, 3, and 5 at the time. And so for me, it was a whole new, like, it's like when my dad died, I always say I feel like the roof over my head was taken. I just feel like I was left, with nothing, no one to catch me.
yeah,
And it took me many, many, many years to try different therapies, meditations, my faith, speaking to people who were helping my family support to kind of come into my own again.
yeah,
Because with all of that loss, I lost a lot of confidence. I wasn't sure what to do. Even in terms of work, I had to kind of retrain. I teach part-time as well, George.
yeah.
So I had to retrain. And it took me many years to find I was still, dealing with whatever had come up with my dad's loss. So my dad passed away in 2008 and
Yeah.
he died of liver cirrhosis. He was an alcoholic and just the trauma of my life. Like he was a lovely guy. We loved him. He was a loving man, but he had the addiction. And I never, ever was able to get over the fact that we weren't able to like help him.
That,
There's a huge guilt and
yeah,
a lot of mixed feelings. So RTT actually helped me go back into that and address those issues and make peace with those issues. And not just make peace with them, but reframe my thinking. So now the same thing that caused me pain actually gives meaning to my life.
yeah,
And this is what I do with RTT. With the grief, we help you go through the pain, move forward in the pain, address those issues, but at the same time, reframe yourself and your relationship with the lost loved one so that you can start to get unstuck and start to live a fully present life
yeah,
and just change the way you think after the fact. The pain will always be
yeah,
there, but now there's meaning not in why the loss happened. You can never find why did so and so die, but what can I do with this grief to find meaning in that pain? What can I use to turn it into something that gives me purpose or meaning in my own way? So RTT for me has, this is why I decided to train in it, and this is why I do
yeah,
what I do.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for
I've
sharing.
walked the walk and I talk the talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. It obviously puts you in a very vulnerable space to share like that. So thank you very much for sharing your story. And also, Aman has also said thank you for sharing and having the courage and strength to share your story. So thank you very much for sharing that. And one question here I have, the next question I have for you is how can we deal with grief and anxiety today, like when it happens now? Because I feel like maybe we're really good. I feel like everyone's generally really good at covering, putting a band-aid over a cut, like a scar, instead of dealing with the actual problem. And then next thing you know, a year or two, 5 years down the line, the problem's still there because you didn't treat it properly. So how can we deal with the grief and anxiety today so that it
Oh,
doesn't affect us negatively in the future, or at least affects us as minimally as possible?
yeah. So basically, I think the biggest thing when you are grieving is to honor your emotions,
Mm,
honor your feelings. And sometimes it's okay. It's not all about being positive. It's not all about being happy. You're not going to just suddenly there is no rush. There is no finishing line that you're trying to get at. So when you have lost somebody, when you are feeling those feelings of anger, of hurt, sadness, if you're feeling let down by the person, these are those stages of grief that you go to. Those are the standard stages we talk about. Here, I'm talking about your emotions. If you are feeling angry towards, you get angry towards the person. Why did you have to die? Because
Yeah.
you're feeling, you get angry if you're religious with God. For a short time,
Yeah.
I've never actually said this, I think, publicly, but for a short time, I actually stopped praying
Mm.
because I lost that, and that's big for me
And this was
because I felt
when your dad and your mom as well.
when everything shattered at one point, I just thought, I can't do this.
Yeah.
It's empty for me. And I needed that, and it was okay. There is no right or wrong. So when you are grieving, honor your feelings. No one is there to judge you. Those who are judging you, let them. Who cares? They're not, when I went through all the stuff I went through with my girls on my own, I always used to think the people who are going to talk, they're not coming to my house to look after my girls when they're sick and I'm upset.
Yeah.
So let them talk. This is where you start owning your own power. You have to do what is right for you.
Yeah.
So do not rush. And unfortunately, the society we live in, everything is in fast forward.
Yeah.
So we have set amounts of a grieving period from work, right? You bereavement leave. And there's this almost like, are you still feeling that way? People you do what you need to do and express it, validate it. Speak to people who actually get you. If no one gets you, find a tribe that gets you. So nowadays, for any issue you have, there'll be forums or grief
Yeah.
pages or circles where you have like-minded people who can
Right.
share stuff. Journaling helps a lot. So when I lost my dad right away, that was a huge lifesaver. So if anyone who's listening, who is like, no one gets me, I missed talking to my dad used to ring me multiple times during the day just to he'd call me and say, can I speak to, he wanted to speak my girls weren't even talking properly, the younger one, but he just wanted to be on the phone with them.
Yeah.
So when he passed away, the phone was silent, right? And it was like, it hits you. So I just bought a random, like a notebook, and I used to write to him every day.
Yeah.
And if I read back, nothing new. All I'm saying is, I miss you. Where are you? What's happened? Can you see me? Do you know? But these are the things, and I'm just getting it out. So journaling really helps.
Yeah.
And for people who are musically inclined or you want to paint, do whatever you need to kind of connect with that pain, that grief,
Yeah.
and cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cry.
Ex- ex-
So many of us are told, it's okay, stop crying. No, we fear that if we start crying in grief, we'll never stop. Like you have this fear that I'm holding it on in, and if I let it out, something's going to happen.
Mm.
Trust me, you'll cry, you'll cry, you'll cry. Eventually, you'll cry out, you'll be cried out, and there will be no more crying. But it's important to get through that. It's like a river that you need to cross
Yeah.
and let go of. Otherwise, it's just going to again build up inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
So,
you. And
yeah,
I feel journaling is something that's helped me out a lot. Mostly, like you said, if you do music, if you do any kind of arts, it's like a medium for you to express yourself. And for me personally, since I've started journaling, I've always journaled on and off. And
yeah,
I had, times where it's really helped me and times where it's felt like a burden. But I've always felt especially now, over the last few months that I've been journaling more consistently, I've always felt whether I'm going through a bad day or a good day, it's something that really like grounds me in the present moment, because I'm able
yeah,
to just like have a look back at my day and not necessarily tell anybody about it, but almost record it. And like you said, you were writing to your father, so it's like you were telling him about it. But for me personally, and like you said, everyone's story is different. But for me personally, it just helps for me to like get my thoughts out on paper and realize that whatever it is that's happening with me, it's okay. You know, it's and that's what journaling really does for me. So again, I think it's a really good it's very helpful, just like you said.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's
And one more thing with
yeah,
grief, George, one more thing with grief.
yes,
I find that the little things that we do, those little meaningful rituals that people do. Like when my dad passed away, I went and I bought like a photo frame with 3 pictures. I printed the pictures out. Um, those little connections that we have, they really help you go. Those are important. People talk about rituals and grief and stuff. You can do your own rituals, but I find those really help as well. Any way that you can kind of have that connection. So if you've just lost someone, my daughters recently lost their dad.
mm,
So my ex, he passed away just last year. So we're also still grieving
yeah, sorry,
that loss. It's been difficult, but nowadays you get these wonderful necklaces where you can have the image of the person. So things like that. So these little things also really help at that time.
yeah, I get
Yeah,
but less because I do feel a lot of the times with death, especially in grieving death, it's not it's like very people don't want to ask you about it either. So it's
yeah,
that's always like you're always like hiding almost. Whereas if you do
yeah,
get something like a necklace or you have picture frames around, people will ask you about it, not knowing, and then I think that'll make the conversation less awkward. It'll be easier to have, and a lot of the times we do want to have those conversations. It's just
yeah.
difficult to start it, and yeah. Jazz, that
So
all yeah. Sorry, go on.
we're talking about people who don't want to speak about it. Majority of the people who are grieving, they will love to speak of their loved ones.
Yeah,
I think people have this fear that they don't want to make them sad, or they don't. Actually, it's the opposite. I love talking about my dad.
yeah,
I love speaking about my grandmom and granddad, all the people I've lost. It's lovely. I love for people to know about them. Anyone who's there, never hesitate, because the person, that's a way of, if you want to help somebody, instead of running away from them because it's awkward, just ask them, how are you doing? So and so was a lovely person. And then if they want to talk, they will talk.
yeah,
They will share with you. If they don't and they've had a difficult relationship, then they'll tell you they don't want to. But chances are you will be helping the person grieving so much by just being there to listen. You're not talking to help, you're just talking to listen, because it gives that person a chance to kind of speak, because that person's no longer around.
yeah,
And so when we get a chance to speak of them, for us, it's a way of making them alive again by what we speak and share about them.
yeah, yeah.
So you're actually helping someone. So anyone listening, I urge you, if you have someone who's lost a loved one, listen to them, speak of their loved ones. That will help them so much. And you'll actually learn a lot more about them as well.
Yeah. And they
Sorry, I interrupted.
no, no, that's fine, and they will as well. They'll learn so much. Just all the things they may have like, oh, I forgot my dad may have
Yeah,
this, and yeah, and again, like you said, it just brings a smile to that person's face whenever you can ask them
yeah,
about something that someone they love so much like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, listen, like you said, I feel like it's the main thing. People don't necessarily want advice with how to deal with their grief. They just want somebody to be there and listen. And
that's right.
Jazz, thank you so much. It's been great listening to you talk. It's been a very nice conversation. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to leave it there. If you have anything else that you want to add before saying goodbye, please do.
No, I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about, I speak very openly about what's happened in my life and what I've shared, not to kind of highlight the pain, or it's just to show, because I feel that many people, we don't do this enough.
Yeah,
We don't talk about the stuff that's actually real, that's actually painful, and that so many people resonate with, but no one speaks about. So I'm always happy to speak on any platform when it comes to mental health, grief, or otherwise. And I'm really glad that you guys are around. We need more people like your handle. Especially, I'm really happy that all of you are younger, and it's so
yeah.
important that you guys are doing this. So I'm really, really happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. And all the best. Have a great evening. Thank you so much, Jess.
Thank you so much, George. All the best. Bye.